In the monasteries of the first Christian millennium, the only music they had left from the Roman period were the memorized chants of Gregorian plainsong. The preservation of chant through a purely oral tradition for so long against such heavy odds was nothing short of miraculous. Then, in around 1000 AD, a great leap was made from memory to the page. Music began to be written down. A thin trickle of notes became a river, then a flood. So much music of such diversity came bursting forth that it's scarcely possible to believe that it all stems from a dramatic breakthrough made by just a few monks all those centuries ago. The Abbey of Sant'Antimo was founded in the 8th century, and monks still sing here at least twice a day, as they did then. This isn't just pleasing mood music, though, as it's so often perceived today, nor a sort of soothing aromatherapy for the ears. Plain chant is, and was in the Middle Ages, the musical expression of Christian faith. It isn't a woolly spiritualism, but the actual words of the Mass, the Psalms, the hymns, and the Scriptures. What it constituted was a vast mental library of melodies to cover every service for every day of the year. In the 7th century, Pope Gregory the Great, hence the name Gregorian chant, ordered a codification of the entire chant repertoire, so that the whole territory of Christian Europe should sing from the same hymn book, as it were. Now this sounds a lot easier than it was. Though they had the words written down, these poor monks had to keep in their heads all the music, which meant that every note of every chant had to be taught parrot fashion. We're talking here of something like 80 hours worth of music, the equivalent of memorizing the complete works of Beethoven and Wagner put together without the help of music notation. I wonder how modern church musicians would cope with that kind of challenge. To find out, I plunged the choir of Salisbury Cathedral into the Dark Ages by the simple method of removing all their printed music. Memorizing a couple of thousand chants not only took half a lifetime to achieve, it also had one or two serious drawbacks. The excellent choristers of Salisbury Cathedral are now going to help me demonstrate one of these flaws. I'm going to sing a little tune to Richard, the head chorister here, and he's going to sing it to another chorister and then another chorister after that, and so on down the line. When it comes back at the end, will it be the same tune, or will it be a case of Gregorian whispers? Okay, Richard? So it's already quite different after just 2 hearings. It's a different length, different pitch, and a different speed. If trained choristers like these find it difficult, imagine what it was like in Gregorian times with only illiterate peasant children as raw material.
La 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 la.
Clearly, the need to find some kind of written aid for the memory was becoming a pressing priority for the musical monks of medieval Europe. By the time the Holy Roman Emperor Charlemagne ordered his codification and revising of the Gregorian chant in around 800, a crude system of squiggles and symbols had begun to emerge, which were to be the forerunners of proper musical notation. These were called neumes. Fantastic. This 1200-year-old book is the earliest surviving example of Christian Europe's attempts to write music down. It's also extremely fragile. Now, if you look above the Latin text here, you'll see various lines, marks, and symbols, almost like some kind of shorthand. Well, these are the neumes, and neumes are a primitive attempt to show the contour and shape of the melody you're supposed to be singing above these words. But neumes have a fatal flaw. They give you the outline of the melody you're singing, but they don't tell you where you're starting from, nor how the different tunes relate to each other. Neumes are a bit like a map, which has the shape of the roads on it, but none of the road names or numbers. A map without north, south, east, or west. Pretty unhelpful, really. Unless, of course, you already know the tune you're singing and you just want to jog your memory. That's what neumes are best at. Reminding you of a tune you already know, not showing it to you for the first time. The inadequacy of neumes was a problem for all the abbeys and cathedrals of Europe. Then, out of northern Italy, came the Big Bang, an idea that turned the humble neumes into agents of dynamic change. And this was that big idea, a thin red line. The red line acted as a fixed reference pitch for the notes to lock onto. Now you knew where your tune started and where it ended, simply by looking at where the notes were in relation to the red line. This is a hymn to St. Cecilia, the patron saint of music. And what you're looking at in this 900-year-old manuscript is the moment frozen in time where Western music took its first great leap forward. A thin red line. We don't know who thought of it first, but we do know who saw its significance and potential and put it on the musical map. His name was Guido Monaco, and legend has it he may have ended his days in this monastery of Fonte Avellana in northern Italy. It was in this building that Guido set up a choir school, soon to become famous throughout Italy. Broadly speaking, his methods are still in use today. Guido's choristers, who sang here in this very building every day, were the first people ever to read music at sight from the page. That someone could sing a tune they'd never heard before simply by looking at squiggles and dots on paper was considered one of the great marvels of the time. Guido wrote 2 medieval blockbusters on the teaching of singing. The most influential, Micrologus, he wrote here in Arezzo. In them, he demonstrated his new lined method of notation that made the reading of notes utterly simple and clear. His biggest idea was the washing line principle. He drew one straight red horizontal line, like that. And he called this F. He said this would always represent the note F. So he put an F at the front of it like that. Now, nowadays, we'd call that a clef, French word for key. and Guido invented it. So, a blob on the line meant sing the note F, La. And a blob above the line meant sing the next note up, La, G. And a blob below the line meant sing the note below, E, La. Now, I know this seems fantastically simple to us, but then so does the wheel, and it took mankind a long time to figure that out. Eventually, he added another line in fetching yellow above it, which represented the note C, and a third line between the two, which represented the note A. And the spaces between them were G and B. So you had F, G, A, B, C. And here are those lines copied out in a copy of his book, Mycologus. And all you had to do was follow the blobs on the washing line, grazie Roberto, and you could read the notes one after another, easy as pie. La da dee la 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 dee 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 dee. Written notation was the theory, and a darn good one too, but Guido as a singing teacher wanted to help his choristers in practice. He wanted his pupils to be able to hear in their heads the relative pitch of notes, to develop an instinct for how high or low a given note, A, B, D, G, would be. You see, to sing a tune properly, you have to be able to recognise instantly the distance between two notes. For example, when we sing, "Should all acquaintance be forgot," that first leap, "should all," we know is 4 notes, not 5, "should all," or for that matter, 7, "should all." Now those leaps are called intervals, and Guido had a novel way of remembering them. Here's a clue.
Doe, a deer, a female deer, Ray, a drop of golden sun. Me, a name I call myself, far, a long, long way to run.
It was Guido who invented the do-re-mi singing scale we all so enjoyed in The Sound of Music. It's still in use today as a means of teaching children to sing, just as it was nearly 1,000 years ago when Guido first came up with it.
A deer, a female deer, Ray, a drop of golden sun.
To pick up some more clues about this remarkable, elusive figure and to see his do-re-mi singing scale in action, I visited the small hillside village of Talla, 30 kilometres from Arezzo, where, legend has it, Guido was born. Aha! And here is Guido's singing system in handy kit form against the wall. Like Maria in The Sound of Music, Guido taught his choristers a little ditty that he'd made up. His song, Ut queant laxis, wasn't quite as catchy as hers, and his choristers didn't wear lederhosen either, but never mind, the idea was the same. Now, the names Ut, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La are the first syllables of each of the Latin phrases of this memorable hymn. Guido's system was actually called Ut-re-mi, not Do-re-mi, by the way. But that's another story. I think you'll agree that the phrase Ut, a deer, a female deer, doesn't have quite the same ring to it. Now, each of the phrases begins with a different note, and the notes are arranged in a neat ladder from bottom to top, low to high. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and tea, a drink with jam and bread, was added later, in case you're wondering. If I press this handy knob here, a group of monks, forever trapped behind this wall, will sing the whole phrase in Latin. Ut queant laxis es volare